Hello! Today's stories come from r/entitled people. I've got two stories today. Let's dive right in. First up, Sister was mad because I brought a camper for camping. A while back, I posted in another subreddit asking if I was in the wrong about this. And the resounding answer was heck no. And the situation has been resolved, albeit with a fair amount of friction. So I'll chronicle the whole thing here. I wasn't able to do as much detail due to a character limit before, so this will be more of the full story. I, male of 32 years old, was not a big fan of camping. Didn't like it, but don't really hate it either. At least until now because I own a camper. My sister loves camping, much like one would love a hobby. And every time she invited me on a camping trip, something stupid would happen. My sister and her husband love to camp with friends multiple times a year, and when these people get together to camp, they get drunk and do stupid things to each other. My mother always calls me up begging I go camping with my sister and brother in law because they use camping mainly as a reason to get wasted and act like the way they did in college. Even though they have two kids, both are boys, 10 and 9 years old. So someone needs to stay sober and be responsible. And yes, it has been suggested that someone else watch the kids during the camping trips. But my sister and brother in law drag them along and call it family bonding. Anytime I went camping with my sister and brother in law, they love to screw with me. They and their friends are relentless with pranks to each other, and they all considered me as fair game, even though I don't care for pranks. And even though they'd get wasted, they'd always be up by 8 to 9 a.m., and they didn't like to let me sleep in. So they would do any stupid thing they could to bother me in order to get me up. The usual thing was to collapse my tent on me, but they also liked to make loud noises like yelling, blaring an air horn, or had a boombox on max volume put right near my head through the tent walls. They also do this kind of crap to each other, and then some. A couple years ago, my sister and her husband got ice water dumped on them in the morning, and they laughed it off. There have also been stink bombs in tents during the night, water balloons, stolen clothing, writing on faces with markers, etc. Last year, I brought one of those cots that is its own small tent, and they pushed me over in it like they were cow tipping. I'd had enough, so this year I took some measures. As I'd previously said, I only went along with the camping for the sake of my nephews because they're dragged along. They're good kids. So this year, I got online and found a used camper without telling anyone. So they didn't expect to see it when I drove up to the campsite with it on the back of my F 150 4x4. My sister looked surprised, then not pleased when she saw it, but they didn't say anything about it. Everyone else seemed to love the camper though, and I gave them a tour. During the camping, all of the usual stuff happened. Except anytime they tried to screw with me, I just went into the camper and locked the door, which also meant I got a better night's sleep. Around 8 a.m., I heard someone outside fiddling with the doorknob. They were trying to get inside to prank me again. They ended up resorting to using the air horn. I put in earplugs. They then tried to rock the truck, but it must have been too heavy because they stopped after a few seconds. I didn't get up till 11 a.m. I made myself breakfast, got to do my business in a portable toilet, and had a decent place to change clothes. When I finally came outside, my sister looked pissed, then made a passive aggressive remark about me finally gracing everyone with my presence. The rest of the time we were camping, stuff went on like this, but they couldn't mess with me when I locked myself in a box. I got good sleep for once on these trips, and my nephews were always wanting in my camper to hang out. We played Uno at the table a few times, and I had a refrigerator filled with soda. When the trip was over, my sister confronted me and said that next time she was making a tents only rule. And I said I wouldn't be going then because my camper and I are a package deal. She told me she hated the camper and that it wasn't necessary. I said she only hated it because she can't mess with me now that I have it. I was sick of all the stupid pranks, and if they want me to help with the kids on camping trips, then my camper comes with and they stop messing with me. She called me a jackass and walked away to fume. The only other person that gave me crap about it is my brother in law, but everyone else said the camper was cool. My sister and brother in law were upset with me for days, so I showed them my original post after getting the verdict, and they freaked. My sister yelled at me that I was a jerk for making the post and wanted me to take it down. I refused and told her and brother in law to read the comments. They fought with me about it for a while longer and then spent some time reading the comments. They ended up becoming extremely embarrassed by the opinions many people had of them, and they finally agreed that if I keep camping with them to help with the kids, there will be no more pranking me. They and their friends are free to prank each other, but I and my camper are off limits to their shenanigans. especially after I pointed out that if they cause any sort of damage, it'll be on them financially. What's more, when they learned it's a potential criminal offense to rock my camper the way they did because it can cause injury to a person inside. So they said they'd never try that again. They're also not going to use the air horn anymore for obvious reasons. My sister was very upset that so many here called her out as a bully, especially since I agreed with them. When I asked her why she was so dead set on messing with me, she said she really didn't know why. I told her that it didn't really matter. Bullying is bullying, and we're not kids anymore. My brother in law initially defended her, but was sucked into it as well for always going along with her antics, to which I called him a complete tool. He ended up moping about it. He and my sister were both extremely upset to have been called out as acting like a drunken frat. They were especially sore when I pointed out we're not young anymore. My sister is 35 and brother in law is 36. The arguments did start out with things like, why can't you just lighten up? And me saying, why can't you just respect my choice to stay out of the pranking and leave me the hell alone? And it remained a stalemate until my sister and brother in law went through all of the comments like I told them to. Also, it seems I may have started a camper trend, because at least one of the couples my sister and brother in law are close friends with just bought one off Facebook for themselves. They have a GMC Sierra. That'll haul one just fine. And one of the other couples I heard are looking for a camper trailer. My sister has shown noticeable tension over this. The days of tents only camping may actually be over for the group. My sister liked to act like she was in charge of organizing it, but all the group really did was meet up at one of several camping sites multiple times a year. Lastly, there is my mother. She was the most unhappy finding out about my original post, but I told her I really didn't care what she thought because she insisted I keep going on the camping trips despite the relentless pranking that they were doing to me because the children. I called her out that if she was so concerned with that, she'd have gone too. She's retired and has plenty of time on her hands. And then she whined that she hates camping. And I sarcastically nodded and said, you see, now you get how I felt. She hasn't apologized, but did admit I was right, though she's acting distant with me and my sister now. I'm still going to be doing camping, because what's the point of having a camper if I don't use it? But it's more for myself now. I can go camping by myself on my own time now. And if I go with my sister and brother in law again, they aren't allowed to screw with me. So I think I can finally enjoy being out in the woods for a few days at a time now. I'm going to be looking into getting solar panels and setting up a gaming console as well. I'm still a fan of older consoles like the PS2, N64, and GameCube. So having at least one of those in the camper, along with a collection of some good books to read in peace, sounds like a great way to unwind. First of all, I'd absolutely pick N64 over GameCube. Curious if others agree. Outside of that, I really feel for OP. I'm glad they got it sorted out, though. I can't believe it had to go so far that OP literally had to buy a metal cage to protect himself from that bullying, and it still didn't get through to the others. Green 7000 wrote a very succinct explanation of how that might happen. They said, one of the dangers of being in a bubble, everyone around you but one person likes the pranks or believes a certain thing or uses certain words. Then it's the one dissenter who is the problem. A bunch of people outside the bubble saying, what the heck, what is wrong with you, can get them to realize what has been normalized is not normal. And now for the main event. The more times I read this, the more confused I get. The story is, entitled lady gets mad and calls the cops. So, I'm a World War II reenactor who reenacts US Army. I usually tend to practice battle scenes in my yard, so that way I'm prepared for a reenactment. This happened about a week ago, and I thought that it was just so stupid, so I had to tell someone. Why not all have read it? I was just practicing as usual in full gear when the dreaded beast lurks forth from the street. Now, I try to be respectful to people, but this lady was horrible. I was smack middle in the center of my yard, and this lady just walks up and starts blabbing about something. I wasn't close enough to hear her, so I ignored her. I tend to get a lot of gawkers. Most people don't see a crazy guy running around in a World War II uniform. So I thought she was just there to look, then move on. Then, all of a sudden, I hear her yelling for help. So I look over to see if something's wrong, and I start moving in that direction. I didn't see anything wrong, so I paused, confused. Then she started yelling that I was stealing from her. I was confounded and trying to grasp why she was yelling that, so I walked over to try to ask her to stop and to talk it out. The following conversation goes like this. Why are you yelling that? Because you've stolen from me. I'm not sure how I did that. I don't even know you. Don't patronize me. I don't have to answer to an idiot like you. Now give it back. Listen, lady, like I said, I don't know you. Could you please calm down so we can talk? I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I'm not talking to someone who's assaulting me. You stole that from me. At this point, I got confused, as I don't remember stealing anything from her. So I say, all right, listen. How about we both calm down and talk about this like adults? Why should I? You stole from me. Now give me back that army stuff. Ma'am, this is all my equipment. If someone stole your stuff, I'd be happy to help you look for it. Liar. You stole it all from me. If you don't give it back, I'll call the cops. Thinking this was a bluff, I went inside. Because what kind of crazy lady would actually call the cops on something as trivial as trying to get my stuff? A couple of minutes later, I see two officers outside my house. I went outside, and this lady is screaming at them. The lunatic is in there. Go bust down his door already. Ma'am, I believe he's already here. So I say, what's the problem, officers? Name and age, please. I proceed to give them. Sir, did you steal this woman's army stuff? No, ma'am, all the equipment is mine. I have all the receipts of purchase. Liar, that's my stuff. I want it. Sir, could we come inside to ask you a few questions? Sure thing. Make sure he gives all of my stuff back. I want it now. The officers questioned me. I showed them the receipts and told them of how this lady just came up and accused me. The officers just looked at each other as if they'd done this before. The officers then went back outside and talked with the lady. I watched from inside because I didn't want any more yelling, and watched as the officers drove away. This lady then proceeds to have a breakdown in front of my house and walks away. Haven't seen her since. Maybe she's still out there, lurking in the shadows to strike another unsuspecting victim. Oh gosh, can you imagine? Random Karens or people out there waiting outside your house to see if you're wearing or holding anything valuable to start screaming, thief, thief, and then calling the cops? You don't even have to be in a store anymore to be accosted. Super spooky. Bonbon said, I wonder how old this lady was. Was she middle aged, elderly, young? I wonder if perhaps she'd lost family in World War II or in any other more recent wars. Rather bizarre if you ask me. OP. She looked around 30 to 35 ish. I don't know her exact age. Downtown Command 295 said, she needs a checkup from the neck up. OP? Agreed. Random Phantom 84 commented, hilariously, this isn't the first story I've heard of a Karen trying to steal antique military equipment. A friend of mine, who is a World War II vet, has had several Karens. Some she knows, most are strangers, try to take her military stuff, uniform, weapons, etc. One Karen in particular assaulted her just because her precious baby wanted friend's bayonet. She had brought it to an antique store to have it appraised. It was given to her by the US Marines in 1932 when she first joined. Karen got in serious trouble. OP. The stuff about your friend is super cool. World War II vets are amazing people. I've met many. They have many amazing stories. But I swear, Karens are on another level of self entitled, brain dead existence. I don't care if your precious baby wants a bayonet from 1932. You don't mess with a World War II vet. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.